You know, apart from showing some leniency to customers during the pandemic, the big banks have rightly earned a reputation in this country as heartless and profit hungry. They did themselves no favours during the Royal Commission into misconduct in banks and financial institutions, as we all know. They were found to have charged for services that were non-existent, earned commissions for recommending inferior investment products, and hardly ever punished misconduct with dismissal. So it's a bit rich for ANZ to take the high moral environmental ground today over climate change. Now, the bank intends to implement a drastically ambitious net zero emissions plan, and they refuse to deal with clients and companies who don't have low carbon transmission plans as well. And they've put an impractical time frame on all of this. The likes of farmers, manufacturers, energy and transport sectors, they'll need to be cutting CO2 emissions next year. Now, the board has obviously ignored the fact that no matter what we do in this country with CO2 emissions, we can make no difference to the temperature of the planet. Not an opinion, a fact as confirmed by the chief scientist. But it's all about kissing and making up, you see, with all those angry customers that have condemned their practices in the past. It makes them look responsible, you know, and a good environmental citizen by flying the global warming flag. They become green along with BHP, Qantas, NAB, Westpac and the Commonwealth Bank in demonising any sector that emits CO2. No mention today of how many decades it'll take for unreliable renewable power to be stored and then used for our increasing baseload energy demands. Oh no, they don't have the answers, they just know what to demonise. None of this moralising answers these questions. It just condemns coal and will put us all in the dark, literally. Look at the Australian Conservation Foundation. It's on the warpath about the big banks backing gas projects. Now, gas emits far less CO2 than coal, and we have enormous untapped reserves of gas. But in the world of green absolutism, there's no room for improvement. Oh no, it's about demonising all CO2 and off with its head. Agriculture Minister David Littleproud got it right this afternoon.
Australian agriculture will pay for it, whether it's directly, we're 13% of emissions, or whether it's through transport or higher energy costs. Someone has to pay for this, and that's why we're investing in technology, not taxes, making sure we do this in a practical way that lives up to our international commitments while not having a significant impact on our economy.
He's right. How do farmers in particular do a U-turn on the way they produce our vital food supplies by next year? Now, it's possible for adaptation over time and technology will play a major role. But like baseload power, it's impossible in practice to turn the tap off now and think that our way of life in this country will somehow remain the same. It can't.
This is disgraceful. Australian banks shouldn't think that they can become the moral compass of this country. CEOs and boards of these big banks need to get back to their knitting, which is putting capital into our economy. Let the moral conscience of this country be dictated to by its people, and that's done through elections. That's how our country runs, rather than a will imposed by a minority on our whole nation. The government has a clear view on how to reduce emissions while keeping the economy going. We'll live up to those commitments, and that's around technology, not taxes, and we don't need banks coming over the top thinking they know better.
He's right again. But of course, these are the boardroom threats that have become the latest cause celeb for the boardrooms of Australia. They know that until India, China and the United States make moves to cut CO2 emissions, nothing will change in the world. But it is a very popular bandwagon. Yes, we're getting warmer, slightly, only 1 degree Celsius on average in the past 50 years. Australia is following its Paris emission agreements, and the ANZs of the world should stop all this climate change moralising. And how about focusing on becoming a business that cares and acts in the interest of its customers? That'd be a change.